few moments to bring our good intentions. So we have gathered here to listen and to share so that we can be reminded, encouraged, inspired to practice the Lojong, the mind training in our everyday life as much as possible. So through that practice so that we can cultivate and fully develop the true bodhicitta mind, the conventional bodhicitta and wisdom. So we can take care of better ourselves and others. And through the practice of Lojong, may we be able to transform whatever happens in our life into the path. And may it become cause and conditions to actualize our own highest potential, the fully awakened state. So we can fulfill the highest purpose of others and oneself. Okay, so then we do the refuge and bodhicitta. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. So today is our last of the Lojong, the mind trainings, and 7-point mind training, and we have finished 5, and we're on the 6th. The 6th is the commitment of the mind training, and 7 is the advices, and both the commitment and advices are a practice to help us to maintain the true bodhicitta mind from deteriorating our bodhicitta minds. You know, it is a practice to protect. It's a practice that to help and protect our true bodhicitta mind. And so, and in terms of commitment, of course, if you keep it, you know, you have extra virtues. If you don't keep it, if you break it, then you create extra negative karma. Whereas advice is, you know, whether we do it or not, we don't have that extra. If we don't follow it, we don't have extra negative karma, breaking the commitments. But of course, And even if we don't break it, keep it, also we don't have the extra virtues by the having taken the commitments. So that is the slightly different, but otherwise both those practice are a way to help to maintain the bodhicitta mind from deteriorating and to increase and improve the two bodhicitta mind. And within the commitments, then there's kind of 18 commitments, and I think we have finished up to what? Purify the first whichever afflictions is heaviest. We finished that part, yeah. So next one is give up all the hope of reward. So when we engage in the practice of mind training, when we engage in the practice of mind training, we try to practice without any kind of expectations, hope for a reward. Whether it's expectations and hope for some kind of reward in this life or reward in next life, but we just practice because is the right way, is the right thing to do. Is the right thing to do. And when we are able to practice the lojong without any kind of hope or expectation or reward of this life and future lives, then your practice becomes much more pure. Your practice becomes much more pure. And also there is less likely to become become a disappointment. When you engage a certain practice with a hope and expectations, then when we don't get the right result, we can be disappointed. And that can become an obstacle for our practice. When you become disappointed, then we become discouraged. And then we give up. And so therefore, when we do practice because we enjoy doing that. It's simply, we just try to do that, and so without that kind of a reward. And then next one, abandon the poisonous food, Food is generally, food is something that sustains us, keep us sustaining and healthy. But when it's poisonous, then of course, it makes us sick and could take our life too. So it doesn't become the source of sustaining, but instead it becomes a source of taking away. In the same way here, when we say abandon the poisonous food, here means generally the virtues, any of the virtues are positive and good. It's like a sustaining food. But when your virtues is poisonous and polluted by self-cherishing thought or selfish attitude and self-grasping, then that virtues become poisonous. That virtues, any kind of virtues, through three doors, any kind of virtues, that virtues actions is kind of stained, diluted, and poisonous by the selfish attitude and self-grasping. So whenever we engage in the virtues, we try to make sure as much as possible with the right intentions, without any selfish attitude, without any self-grasping ignorance. And so when you are so therefore trying to apply both the wisdom and the bodhicitta motivations and the wisdom into whatever virtue we try to engage into, so then that virtues become really much more sustaining, beneficials. So that is what it means, abandon the poisonous food. Do not serve the central object leniently. In Tibetan, I think in other translation, it is there is another translation which kind of is more closer to the Tibetan, because I don't know this exactly. Do not hold grudges. And I don't know whether that has same meaning, this one, these translations. But I have another translation that says that one. And Tibetan, it has that. That means when someone has done something harmful to us, hurtful, harmful to us, intentionally, unintentionally, whatever, we are unable to let it go, and we keep on thinking about that again and again. Unable to let it go for whatever hurt, harm someone might have done, mistakenly, unmistakingly, intentionally, unintentionally. But we are not being able to let it go, We keep on replaying again and again and again. And thereby, as we keep on replaying that, then it hurt us. Each time you think about it, it is painful. It makes you more upset, angry. And each time when we do that, then that kind of upset and angry, hateful, whatever, make you that kind of damage our goodness of loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta mind. It damage, as and so therefore, so we don't try to hold grudges, but trying to let it go as soon as possible. The sooner you are able to let it go, the less painful it is for you, and the less damage it does for our love, compassion, and bodhicitta, and the bodhisattva path and practice. Be indifferent towards malicious jokes. When someone says something hurtful, malicious, joke or some speech, instead of trying to retaliate back with the same kind of reactions, same kind of response, instead, we understand someone is acting that way because of their delusions, and because that they themselves have no control over their own mind, because they themselves is totally being prisoner and slave of their delusions, and because of their delusions, therefore they are behaving and doing that way with that understanding, instead of trying to retaliate and revenge in the same way. We try to say good thing about them, even praise about them, instead of trying to hurt them back with that kind of speech. Mm-hmm. And then do not lie in ambush. So that means, again, if someone has, again, unintentionally has harmed us, hurt us in the past, waiting for the opportunity to get back to them and to take the revenge, looking for all the opportunity, waiting for the opportunity, right opportunity, to get back, So again, not being able to let it go, not being able to let it go of, our ill will feeling, bad feeling towards them for whatever they did. And because of that, because we haven't been able to let it go, it is still there. So then we're waiting to get the right opportunity, right time, right opportunity to struck them and attack them, So when we engage in the Bodhisattva path, when we engage in the Lojong practice, we try to avoid that, doing that, Instead, we try to forgive, we try to let it go, we try to feel compassion for them, and so that is the Bodhisattva practice, and that is the Lojong is Bodhisattva practice. So that is never strike at the heart, So that means, with the intention to hurt and harm someone, so then, saying something that really strike their heart, pushing the is like what we say, pushing the burden, what make them really upset or angry or hurtful, and knowing exactly what, and then using that, whether it's a particular word, whether it's a particular paragraph, whether it's a particular sentence, whether it's the way we, express certain things. And we know that if we do that, it will really hurt their heart and mind, and with the intention to hurt and heart, and we actually do that, And so then again, when we are trying to practice the Lojong and Bodhisattva path, we are trying to be compassionate and kind to each and every sentient beings, and trying to help and benefit. And if we can't help and benefit, at least we don't try to hurt and harm them. When we do that, then it goes against the very intentions of wanting to practice the Bodhisattva path, but very purpose of practicing the Lojong and Bodhisattva path. It goes against the very root of those practices. And so therefore, and then next one, do not load an ox with the load of zo. Zo means animals, it's a mixture of yak. Yak is a Tibetan, not only in Tibet, but also in Himalayas, many Himalayas. There is a big, here is like a, buffalo, but of course slightly different. So yak. So zo is a mix between the cow and the yak. When they come together, then they produce the zo. So cow is cheap, zo is more expensive, and yak is most expensive. And they use and so. So basically, what it is saying is, when we make a mistake, we blame others. We give the load to others. We blame others. When we make a mistake, instead of acknowledging our mistake, accepting our mistake, then we have all the excuse. Oh, because of him or her, or because of this and that. So we kind of directly or indirectly, sometimes we don't say direct, we don't blame others directly, but indirectly, sometimes we'll say, I wasn't meant to do that, but because he or she did this and that and this and that. So there is a sense of giving the load to someone, blaming someone. Or sometimes when we have to do difficult things, and instead of taking the charge, we try to give someone else. When it's easy, we take it. When it's easy, we take on it, And when it's difficult, then we try to give the responsibility to someone else because we don't want to take the, because it's not easy and there is more likely that we might not be successful, failure, and you want to give the failure to others. And when you feel it is easy, you take on it, When something is easy, even someone wants to, I will do it, don't wait, do it. When it's difficult, then, we try to give someone else. That is giving the load of ox to the jaw. And so again, here it is saying, so, and then next one, do not compete by a last minute sprint, So again, when we practice the lojong, we are not trying to compete with anyone. When we are practicing the lojong, we are trying to develop our heart, love, compassion, the wisdom, and we are not trying to compete with someone. But sometimes when we practice Dharma, even Dharma, sometimes it can come in a way that it becomes compete. Oh, he or she has done more retreat. I want to do more than him. Or he or she has received this and this teaching. I want to receive more than him or her. Or he or she has achieved that kind of, practice. I would like to achieve more than that. So a sense of that competitiveness, even in Dharma practice, even in Lojong practice, if that happens, then again, it loses the essence of the practice. It loses the essence of the practice. When we practice the Lojong and the Bodhisattva path, is trying to give the victories to others, taking the loose to ourselves. That is Bodhisattva practice. That is Lojong practice. If possible, is training, learning, give the victories to others and taking the loss on ourselves. But even we can't do practice because it's too advanced and it's not too easy. It is not easy for us. It is too difficult. Even we can't do that, at least, we don't want to put them down, and trying to be ourselves better through that kind of competitive mind. Instead, we wish them to do better than ourselves. Instead, we wish them for them to do better than ourselves. That is more right attitude in this Lojong practice and Bodhisattva path. So instead of being competitive, having a competitive mind. Do not be treacherous. What is the other translations? The other translation I have here, do not use perverse perverse means. What it means is, do not be treacherous. And this one is said, do not use perverse means. I think that one seems to convey the more message of the Tibetan versions. What it means is like, in long term, we want a benefit, but temporarily, we try to take the loss, So that is kind of deceiving. It's like a means of like a deceiving, Temporarily, immediately it seems like you are taking the blame or the lose, but your intentions is long term, you want to gain. So again, that kind of attitude, when you are dealing with someone's, temporarily, we try to take on the blame and the loss. But in long term, you want to have the victory. In the long term, you want to have the victory over that situation, over that person's. But temporarily, we pretend or we try to take on that. And so therefore, so then that is not true to your heart, that becomes like pretense, it's not true to heart. If you are taking the blame or lose, you are not really taking from the heart. It's just kind of more like a pretend, just to show up, in a way, to show a good to give a good impression, that I'm a good practitioner, or I'm kind, or I'm forgiving persons, or I'm patient. That is only temporary kind of immediate kind of outlook and impression and look, but inside that you have much more, other intentions. Or, for example, even when you were trying to, another example is we are trying to practice the lojong, in order to overcome, obstacles, sickness, If we practice the lojong for that purpose, again, we totally lose the purpose of practicing the lojong. The true purpose of practicing lojong is to develop the two bodhicitta mind, to be benefit to others. But when we engage the practice for worldly temporary things in order to solve our worldly, problems, then we truly really lose the very essence and the true meaning of the practice. And so, unfortunately, sometimes that happens in many cases when we practice Dharma. The practice of Dharma is to develop our heart and our wisdom. By developing our heart and our wisdom, the two bodhicitta mind, to be more benefit and service to others and oneself, and to achieve enlightenment for that as well. But sometimes then, we use the practice for a worldly purpose, or, to solve the worldly things, samsaric things. I'm sick. And so because in order to cure from the sickness, I practice. I have an obstacle. In order to overcome that obstacles, temporary samsaric obstacles, then I practice the Dharma. Or I'm having some other issues, some problem in job, relationship, then again, we practice the Dharma in order to solve that problem. When that kind of things happens, then, totally we lose the meaning of practicing the Dharma, the essence of practicing the Dharma. And that is when Dharma started to degenerate. Dharma, and especially the Lojong, we should remember and we should never forget, is to develop, is a practice to work with our own mind and to develop our heart and wisdom, the heart of bodhicitta and wisdom. And so yeah, do not bring a God down to the devil, So what that means is, the purpose of practicing the Dharma and Lojong here is to reduce all the defilements, all the afflictive emotions, especially very root of those afflictive emotions, the selfish attitude and self-grasping ignorance. That is the purpose. The purpose of practicing the Lojong is to reduce and to overcome and eliminate the delusions, especially the very root of those delusions, and to cultivate the positive state of mind, especially the bodhicitta, conventional bodhicitta wisdom. That is the main purpose of that. But while we are practicing the Lojong, then we started to become a more arrogant. Then that is what it become, God down to the devil. What it means, it should be reducing the delusion, not increasing the delusions. Okay? The practice of the Lojong should be reducing the delusions. Becoming less arrogant and more humility. Less selfish, more kind. Less ignorance, more wisdom wise. It should be like that. But when it become other way around, then that is what it means, God down to devil. Then, by practicing our Dharma and by Lojongs, then we started thinking, oh, I'm special. And other people are less, we started to look down on others, feeling they are not compassionate people. And feeling I'm more compassionate person. I'm a more compassionate person, and then looking down on others as they are less compassionate, looking down on others as they are less wise and they are more ignorant, and so forth. When that happens, then something's going wrong here. our true practice shouldn't be going that directions. When we apply the Lojong practice, it shouldn't lead to that kind of response or reactions or that kind of feeling. It should be the other way around. When it got that, then there is maybe the way we are practicing is not properly. We are losing the essence. We are losing the essence. And maybe we are just holding on the words, Sometimes we hold on to those words, Lojong, love, compassion, forgiveness, understanding, big words, emptiness, depending arising. We hold on those big words and feel like we are special. We have dry intellectual understanding of them. We have this word, we can explain others, and we can of that. But maybe, we have not really taken to our heart, and therefore there's not really having any transformation in our heart. Instead of reducing those defilement, delusion, is if it increases, there is something wrong. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes some people, less arrogant, and then they started to study, they learn more, and they have more and more knowledge. And then it leads them to be more and more arrogant. That means, because the practice is only in your brain, not in your heart. When that happens, it's like that. Then, practice is just collecting informations. Then studying, learning, just become collecting informations, not really transforming your heart. When that happens, then it is possible, then someone can become more arrogant. But when you really take it to the heart and when you really practice, then it shouldn't be that. But so therefore, we have to watch our mind and make sure that it doesn't happen like that. So that is what it is saying. Do not inflict misery for possessions of happiness. So what it means is, for your happiness, in order for you to have happiness, do not inflict misery on others. To have some kind of success, prosperity, and happiness for ourselves, we shouldn't inflict suffering on others. And that could be, for example, if you want to get a job, you wish that person's lose the job, or you wish that person be fired so you can get the job. That is, in order for you to get the job and prosperity and whatever, you wish others to lose it, to be fired, Or in order for you to win, wishing the other to have a kind of, other to have the suffering, the other to have, For example, if you are having let's say a shop, and someone is another shop close to you and same kind of thing, in order for you to make money, you're wishing others to lose the money so that he or she close the shop so you can make more profit, Or, If you are in a certain business, and if you are making money from the sick people, wishing others to be more sick so you can make money, so you can sell your medicines, drugs. So in order for you to make a profit and success, wishing a suffering, pain to others. This is just one small example, but that we can apply that in so many different ways. So when we do that, then again, it goes against the very heart of the Lojong and Bodhisattva path. The heart of the very Lojong and Bodhisattva path. We wish all sentient beings to be happy, success, prosperity, peaceful all the time. Not wishing them pain, suffering. So those are with that, I think we finished the commitments. Then the 7 is the advice. Practice all yogas or activities by 1. So whatever activity we engage in our 24 hours, eating, sleeping, going for walk, if you have to go to walk, whatever walk that is, cooking, cleaning, whatever you do, every activity that we try to bring the bodhicitta motivations into that practice. A wish to be benefit to others, trying to bring that one thought, one wish, one motivations, that is to be benefit to others, the bodhicitta motivations, everything that we do 24 hours. And if we can bring that bodhicitta motivations to everything that we do, then everything that we do become a more spiritual practice. Cooking becomes the practice. Cooking becomes spiritual. Eating becomes practice. Eating becomes spiritual. Virtues. Driving becomes virtues, meaningful. Walking becomes meaningful, virtues. By the shared power of that right intention, motivations, so. And through that is how we can make our life more meaningful. We can't find a time to really be in cushion so many hours. And therefore, sometimes we feel like we don't have time to practice. But you can try to bring that intention, motivation, whatever you are doing, that itself becomes practice. That itself becomes practice. So that is what it means. Practice every suppressions of interference by 1. So whatever interference, obstacle that we encounter in our life, whatever, for example, when we are trying to practice the Dharma, sometimes we have health issues. When you are trying to practice the Lojong, sometimes we might have some health issues. Sometimes, some other interference by others, people saying bad thing about us, our practice, criticizing, and all kind of things. Or sometimes maybe, We might feel lazy. We might not feel like practicing and so forth. Different interference, external, internal interference. Sometimes maybe having a doubt about the practice itself. Sometimes all of that, whenever those anything when that happens, then here it says, you try to remember we are the not only one. There are so many other beings who are encountering similar interference in their life. We are the not only one when we have health issue. There are so many other practitioners who are having health issues. If we are becoming lazy, we are the not only one who is lazy. There are so many other practitioners who doesn't want to be lazy, but who are being lazy, becoming lazy. If we are sometimes having some kind of doubt about our practice, we are the not only that doubt, there are many others who are also facing that kind of struggles and doubt and so forth. So with that understanding, then we try to develop compassion for others. So we use that our own problem and interference and obstacles to help us to open our mind and our heart to understand others' pain and suffering like our own similar problem, and through that, then wishing them to be free from whatever interference, whatever obstacles, whatever challenges, wishing them to be free from them, wishing to do, and so on. So then by that, there are two duties at the beginning and the end. There are two important things that we need to do. At the very beginning, the right intention, motivations. Okay. Whenever we do any practice, any form of practice, any virtues, trying to, at the very beginning, try to have the right intention, motivation is very key. At the end, dedicating. These are two very important. Beginning, the right motivation, and at the end, right dedications. So whatever form of meditation, practice, virtues we engage, we try to have the right intentions of bodhicitta, compassion of bodhicitta. At the end, we try to dedicate the virtues for the benefit of all sentient beings, for the well-being of all sentient beings. In that way, then the practice become, the virtues, the practice become very powerful, meaningful. A lot of time, we do practice, but we don't have the right intention and we don't do the right dedications. We just do the practice and then kind of run, so then it doesn't become as strong and effective. And again, since this is a long-term practice, so whatever virtues we do, we try to do with bodhicitta for the benefit of all sentient beings, that kind of intention, motivation. At the end, we dedicate whatever virtues, merit we have created from that practice for the well-being of all sentient beings, for enlightenment, for enlightenment, for the benefit of all sentient beings, to be able to cultivate and fully develop the two bodhicitta minds so that we can be more service to other sentient beings. So dedicating in that kind of more extensive, more broader, more profound way, instead of just dedicating, for, may I be healed from my sickness, or may all obstacles be clear. We try to do a more extensive dedication for all sentient beings. So that is the two duties at the beginning and end. Endure whatever situation arises, either good or bad. you know. So trying to be patient with whatever so enduring whatever good or bad happens, when bad things happens, being okay with that, when bad things happens, then recognizing, oh, is a way to purify negative karma. It is a way to exhaust negative karma, and therefore I'm okay with that. Is like, for example, you have sudden illness, and then in order to cure that illness, that you have to go through certain treatment that is uncomfortable, discomforting, unpleasant. But in your mind, even though physically it is a little bit discomfort, unpleasant, but in your mind, there's a joy and happiness because you know that by going through this kind of treatment, that you can be cured of that your disease. So in the mind, there is a excitement, there is a hope, there is a joy. Physically, it is a little bit discomforting, physically unpleasant, but inside, you don't have that kind of, that inside there is kind of more kind of, hope and more kind of joy to know that by going through this treatment that you can be cured of that illness. Similarly, we try to see whatever bad things happen, trying to see that way, is a way of curing the illness of our negative karma through that unpleasant, whatever bad things that are happening in our life. And also utilizing, as we already mentioned before, when bad things happen, also remembering, we are not only one who is having those bad things happening. Everyone's having bad things in their life at a certain time, or most time. And through that understanding, trying to feel compassion for them. And when we are able to do that, then we feel, oh, these bad things was meaningful because it allowed me to feel, it allowed me to develop love, compassion, bodhicitta. And so therefore you don't feel so bad about it because you see there's a meaning. There's something much more high purpose and meaning in that to develop for the development of our spiritual progress and our spiritual path. And when the good things happens, when you have good health, success, happy, when everything seems fine, again, remembering, oh, it's due to the good karma that I've created in the past, that things are well now. And therefore, I want to share that. And then we'll try to, share that with others. We share our happiness with others. We share our prosperity with others. We share our happiness with others. We wish others to be happy like ourselves. We wish others to have a good health like ourselves. We wish others to have a success like ourselves. So whatever good things are happening in our life, we try to understand, is due to virtuous actions and good karma. And therefore, I need to continue to engage in the virtues and good karma as well, encouraging us to be more virtuous, more kind, more compassion. and encouraging us to share it and wish others to have that good things. So whatever happens, whatever situation happens, and to be able to utilize in a positive in that way, Got the 2 points, more precious than your life. So that means, keeping and guarding the commitment of the Dharma, or commitment of the Dharma in general, and especially the Lojong's commitments, and guarding or keeping them even more precious than your own life. We will try all our best to protect our life. Just like that, we try to protect and keep the 2 points, the both or two, both the general, commitment of the Dharma, and especially the Lojong commitments, Because if we break them, then we break the very heart of the Lojong practice, the very heart of the Bodhisattva practice, the Bodhisattva path. Next one, practice the 3 hardships. Or difficult, I think. What does this one says? Training 3 difficult ones. So that means first difficulties is when the delusions, the difficult to recognize the delusions. That is the first difficulty. When the delusion arises, we are unable to recognize, be aware. When anger arises, we are unable to be aware of that. When an attachment arises, we are not being able to be aware of that. When jealousy arises, we are not. So when any of those delusion arises, first of all, we are not being able to be aware of that. That is one difficulty, To be aware of them is one difficulty. Because if we are aware, and then we'll be more careful, and we are more likely to make sure that we are not overwhelmed by that, and try to apply whatever practice method we know. That is the first. Second difficulty is when after we have been aware of that, and we have recognized that delusions, identify that, be aware of that. Then at the second, when we try to overcome it, when we try to reduce it, then it's not easy, it's difficult. Isn't it? Sometimes we know we are angry, and we try to apply certain meditation, certain technique, but we struggle. We cannot, you cannot still reduce the anger. Or same thing with the attachments, Or is something like fear. You know that you are in that state of mind, and you are trying to reduce them. You are trying to overcome them and trying to apply certain technique, certain practice. But again, we struggle. That is the second difficult. Thirdly, to completely, even we are able to apply certain practice, certain meditations in that moment. And even though that whatever delusion had been subsided, and reduce and become a weak. But again, tomorrow it comes, you know. Tomorrow, or maybe after a few hours, it again arises. Something trigger you again, that whatever that, you know, whether it's resentment, for example, and again it arises. So it is difficult, thirdly, to eliminate completely the very to eliminate completely. So these are the difficulties. So practice the three hardships. So therefore, how to practice is, first, when delusion arises, try to recognize them, be aware quickly as possible. Secondly, when you are aware and recognize that delusion, try to apply antidote, whatever meditation technique that you know. That. And thirdly, you know, by understanding the very nature, ultimate nature of that delusion itself, then we try to eliminate that completely from the very root of them. And so applying that. So that is the practice, the three hardship. Attend the three principal courses. The three principal courses for the Lojong practice, for the successful Lojong practice. So in the commentary, is one of the course is having the you know, kind, qualified, good teacher who can teach us this practice. You know, someone who is a good-hearted, kind, compassion, authentic, qualified teachers of the Lojong. So that is one of the course. So once we have, you know, the teacher, then after listening and learning and studying all the practice and all the instructions on that, then second principal course is, then it is not enough just to study and hear and listen. Next, we need to practice. So practicing is the second, you know, course, principal course. And third is having all the condition to practice the Lojong, you know. So in case, you know, that you don't have to struggle with starvations, that we don't have to struggles being without having a shelter, we don't have to struggles, you know, without having enough clothes to keep ourselves warm. Because when we struggle with that, then, you know, it is hard to concentrate on our mind, because the physical, we have so much physical sufferings. Your mind will be too occupied trying to overcome that pain, and then it will find difficult to focus on the mind with the practice. So these three are the three principal causes. So try to gather all these principal causes, and if we have gathered those three principal causes, then we try to rejoice and then try to utilize it. And then, you know, if we have not gathered all these three principal causes, we make the effort to gather all of them. And also for other sentient beings who have not gathered those conditions, who doesn't have those conditions, we wish them, we make prayers, dedication for them to have those conditions as well. Meditate on three undeclining attitude. So three undeclining, So those three attitudes are, having a devotions and respect to the spiritual master or spiritual teachers that who show us the path. So making sure that attitude doesn't decline. Practice so that we can continue to keep that devotion, that respect without declining it. And the other one is, having the joy in engaging in practice of the Lojong. And so making sure that that joy is intact, that we practice so that that joyness does not decline. So when there is that joyness, then you will continue to practice. When you lose the joy in our practice, then we become discouraged and not inspired, and then we don't practice, and then we put it back on the backs, and when we don't practice, when we put back, and when we don't engage in practice, then of course then we cannot develop, so and then make sure that we don't decline the precept, the three precepts, whatever we have, if we have taken any of the precepts, the precept, the vows, Pratimoksha vows, tantric, Bodhisattva vows, tantric vows. If we have taken all of them, if you have not taken all of them, if you have taken two of them, if you have taken just one of them, whatever kind of the precept, the vows that we have taken, that make sure that we don't decline, make sure that we try to keep them purely. So these are the meditative undeclining attitude. Make sure possess the three inseparable. I think this translation, I don't know. Okay. Let me see the other translations. Possess the three without separations. What it means is that make sure that our body and speech and mind is unseparated from the virtuous physical actions, virtuous speech, verbal action, and virtuous mental actions. So trying to, in other way, always trying to restrain and refrain from non-virtuous actions through body, speech, and mind. And trying to restrain from any of non-virtuous harmful action through body, speech, and mind, three doors, and trying to keep the virtues, 10 virtues through body, speech, and mind all the time. Never been separated from those 10 virtues of the three doors. Or in other words, not being separated from the virtues of the three doors, the body, speech, and mind. And then next one, always practice with pure impartiality on all objects, So when we practice, then again, when we practice the Lojong, again, and the Bodhisattva path, we're trying to develop, love, compassion, without any conditions and without any partialities. And so therefore, being okay and patient with someone's misbehavior, and not being okay and not patient with another person's misbehavior. That's being partiality, Being able to forgive someone for same mistake and not being able to forgive for same mistake for another one. Isn't it? Even though, we do that quite often. For some people, we can easily forgive. For some people, we cannot forgive. We cannot, and it might be same mistake. And with someone making this mistake, we are okay. And we are patient with that. But with someone who are become extremely impatient for the same thing and not okay at all. So when you engage, we try to practice, being forgiving everyone, without any partiality, being patient with everyone's, being compassionate, kind with everyone's. So that is cherish the in deep and broad application of all skills. And so that means when we try to practice that kind of impartialities with everyone, then it's not just from the mouth, word, but from the heart. You practice from the heart, coming from the depth of your heart. And of course, then we also try to learn, skills so that we can be more benefit to others, all kind of, we broaden it up. We try to inquire more and more skill so we can be more and more benefit to others, because the more skill we have, the more we are able to benefit more other sentient beings, because different sentient beings are different and we have to respond differently. We have to have the different skillful means to deal with different individuals. And the more we have those broader skillful means, the more broader benefit and help we can do, the more sentient beings we can be more help. So that always meditate on those closely related. What is the other one says? Meditate constantly on the special case. So here it is saying, closely related or special cases, it means we have to emphasize and put more effort towards those which is more difficult. For example, it's easy to develop love and compassion to our dear ones, but it's much more difficult to develop love and compassion for someone you dislike, your enemy. That is a special case. So we have to put even more effort to do that. Easy ones, we don't have to put so much effort. Our dear ones, near ones, loved ones, we feel love, compassion, kind easily. We don't have to put so much effort. but we have to put more effort in those special cases, which is more difficult to forgive. We have to emphasize more on that. More difficult to develop love, compassion, such as enemy. We need to do that. And in some cases, special cases, someone you have benefited a lot, you have been very caring, kind, compassionate, and then you don't expect them to be harmed, to kind of turn against you. But when someone turns against you for everything that you did for them, but instead of being kind back to you, then they turn against you and mistreat you. Such when we have such people, then it becomes extremely, extremely difficult to forgive, to let it go, and to have compassion. And so here saying again, for those situations difficult, we have to make even more effort, and specific meditation on that. Easy ones, we don't have to make so much effort. More difficult one, we have to put more effort and very specifically on that. So that is, and sometimes, certain individual, we have no idea. We don't have any personal kind of, issue, but because of from previous karma, we just have a difficult getting along. There's no really specific reason why you don't feel so connected, or why you feel disconnected or bad about that person. Sometimes but it is something from the past life, nothing from this life. And even those cases, such people, again, we find more difficult to feel compassion, kind, like that. And for those cases, again, we have to put more specific, more effort, and so for that kind of practice. Then depend not upon other circumstances. So what that means is when we try to practice the Lojong, mind training, do not wait for the right circumstances to come to practice. Whatever circumstances is provided, manifest in our life at that time, you utilize that circumstances to practice, good or bad. Instead of waiting to have the right conducive condition, to practice the Dharma. Because that might not come. And we may never be able to practice because you are always waiting for the right conducive conditions, right circumstances. And then you miss the plane. You miss the plane to practice the Lojong because we are waiting for the right conducive condition. So instead of that, whatever condition that is, it is good condition, bad condition, whatever, we utilize that to practice the Dhamma and Lojong practice. So we don't depend on the condition, external condition to practice Dhamma. But whatever condition that is, we utilize that, whether it's a good condition or bad condition. Either way, we utilize that, both of them, for our advantage and to practice the Lojong. Exert yourself, especially at this time. And here is saying, at this time, because we have this precious human rebirth, we have the right conducive condition at this time. We have this precious human rebirth, we have met the Dharma, we know the Dharma, we have met the Lojong teachings, we know a little bit about them, we have met the teachers. So external, internal conditions are all there. And if we don't utilize it now, we might not get any better condition than this in the future. So this is the time to utilize this to practice the Dharma, and especially here in Lojong, Do not follow inverted deeds. What is that one? What one other says? Here it says, avoid distorted understanding. Yeah, there is six distorted distorted attitude or view that it says here. It says, instead of having a patience to practice the Dharma, we don't have patience to practice the Dharma, to go through some hardship when you are practicing the Dharma, but we have patience to kind of take care of our family, friends out of attachments, we have patience to trying to retaliate, revenge our enemies, and that is the distorted patience, and distorted inspirations. Instead of inspiration for the Dharma, then we have inspiration for the worldly things and of this life. That's a distorted. And then another distorted is a compassion, not having a compassion for those, who are full of delusions and mean, unkind, but having compassion for those practitioners who intentionally go through some hardship. For example, Milarepa, he wanted to have that kind of life, without any things and without any positions in that kind of environment. But inside he's extremely happy. Inside he's extremely happy, full of enlightenment, full of realization, joy. So we have compassion for such people, like someone when we see like that, but we don't have compassion for someone whom we see when we see someone who is very mean, unkind, and lot of delusion. So that is distorted. So instead we should have compassion for that. So that's a distorted compassion, and here it says, instead of having a taste of the Dharma through studying, reflecting, contemplating, then we experience the taste of ordinary, ordinary substances, and that is distorted taste, experience the taste, and then it says, when someone's very much rely on you and your advice, you're dependent on you and your advice, and someone who is very dear to you, cherished, instead of guiding them towards, towards the Dharma and towards the spiritual path, guiding them for, worldly activities in the worldly world, and that is, distorted cherishing or distorted care. That is, if you really care someone, then you have to really help them to guide in the long term, where they will have a long-term benefit, not temporary. Then instead of having a rejoicing into the virtues and happiness of liberation and nirvana, rejoicing to that, we rejoice for the suffering of our enemy. That is the distorted, wrong rejoicing. So these are the 6 kind of different distorted. And then next, do not be erratic, you know. That means, sometimes we try to practice a lot, very much, and sometimes we completely kind of ignore it, And when we do that, then it is hard to have a good result. Same with our physical, one day you try to exercise a lot, and then for many weeks you don't do anything. You need the continuity, putting all effort and continuity. And when, and so our practice, there should be some kind of continuity in our practice instead of being erratic, Do not underestimate your ability. That one of the lessons. I'm going to read the other translations. Oh, where is the other one? I think now. I think I'm missing one page. Anyway, so I think I'm missing the next page for the translations. So next one is, without being distracted, we try to put without being distracted, we try to put all our heart and body into the practice. And then next one, be liberated by true examination and analysis. So examination is more kind of, general kind of investigation and analyze it more thoroughly. But what it means is, we try to analyze and investigate whether we have the delusions or not, whether we have a selfish attitude or not, self-grasping or not from time to time, So, if we feel that, oh, I don't have any anger, I don't have any attachment, I don't have any jealousy or any of self-cherishing thought, whatever, when you feel that, oh, I don't seem to have that, then, you go into when you feel that, you go into this real situation where that will, where someone might be very unkind to you, someone who might try to be aggressive, and then see how you respond. And then through that, because when we're by ourselves, we might think, oh, I don't have these delusions because the conditions are not there. So you have to go in the conditions where, and even in that kind of environment condition, when the delusion doesn't arise, that means then definitely, then you have made some progress, and good, and rejoice. Otherwise, there's no one to bother, and we think, oh, my mind is not disturbed, I must be doing well. And then you just have to go somewhere in the town and meet someone, and then you see, whether your mind is still calm or not, and whether your mind is undisturbed. So the analyzing and investigating, in that way, we try to examine ourselves and our practice and where we are, and like that, And next one, do not be boastful, When we try to be helpful and benefit to others, we try to be helpful and not to, boastful and trying, oh, I have helped you before and I have done this and that. And we count everything that we have done, How ungrateful you are, how bad you are. You remember I did this, I did this, I did this. When you need it, I was there. When you so that is when we do that, then again it goes against the very heart of the Bodhicitta mind, the logic, the Bodhicitta mind, and is to help and benefit purely for them, and not to boast ourselves, and not to count what we have done to them, so that is, and do not retaliate. And of course, if someone has been unkind, uncompassionate, and mean, and some harmful, again, not trying to retaliate the same way with anger, hatred, but instead trying to be compassionate, if possible, instead trying to be kind. So do not be pickly or pickle, pickle, eating pickle.
Yeah.
Pickle. Okay. What it means is that, we shouldn't be, your mind shouldn't be so easily up and down, something good happen, your mind is so jumping, so excited, and something bad happen, your mind is so depressed and so down, Instead, we should try to keep our emotions more stable, not allowed to be so up and down so quickly, so easily by small changes. Do not wish for gratitude, when we try to help and benefit others, uh, not wishing them to thank you, not wishing, expecting to thank you, to acknowledge even, you just want to help, and that is it. And no wish for them to thank you, no hope, no expectation to acknowledge, to thank you, because once you have that, then it is still, there is a little bit of selfish attitude, so the still, because it is still, there's some conditions, so we want to practice, when we want to practice unconditional, and to do that, then we shouldn't have that kind of, before practicing, I examine my expanding actions, and because of many of my wishes having undergone suffering, insult, and criticism. So the author himself, he himself had went through a lot of those in his life. He underwent through a lot of suffering, insult, and criticism, and that that inspired him to practice the Lojong, and through having practiced the Lojong, then he is able to, tame the self-grasping and self-cherishing thought, and now nothing bothers him, and his mind is calm, peaceful, and now even if I die, I have no regrets. So now the author, the Geshe Sherab, he says, now I have no regret, even I die now, no regret. And he has reached, that is the confidence, that is sense of confidence that come through the practice. And we also try to aspire to be in that kind of, to be able to reach to that kind of confidence when that we feel I'm ready to die anytime and I have no regret and all, to be able to reach that point, because you have confidence in your practice. So with that, I think we did well. We completed in a time. So thank you very much for all your patience and your time. And yeah. So then we do the dedications. We didn't have time for cautions because just I wish we had more time, but I had to rush and finish that. So hopefully in the future, okay? So we can do the dedications. Do you have the dedication there, Sunny? So as we recite slowly, try to feel as much as possible from your heart. May all beings everywhere, plagued by the suffering of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtues of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled, with a mind weighed down by depressions. May the blind see forms, and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drink. May the poor find wealth, those who weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvest. May all medicine be effective and wholesome prayer bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be free from their ailments. Whatever disease they are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightening cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Keep warm. Here also is cold, but I don't think it's as cold as there. So, thank you. Good night. Thank you. Take care. Good night. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Is anybody there?
Yeah, the meeting's still, it's still, yeah.
You're
Amy?
still there, Sunny? Is it too late
Yeah.
to do my, to do the survey?
Yes, December 11th was the cutoff. That was
Okay.
last Friday. But you
Okay,
know what? Hey, send it in. Go ahead, give it a try.
I was looking for it and I can't seem to find it, but I'll look again for it and see.
Okay.
Where did you send it under? I spent some time looking for it and couldn't find it, which was one of the reasons it's late, but
Yeah.
maybe I didn't.